Hey, it's John from ProjectWatchPro. And did you know that 80% of construction, trade, and fabrication company payrolls are wrong? Okay, here's why. So picture this. 80% of the manual timesheets in construction, trade, and fabrication businesses have errors. That's just not a stat. It's a payroll nightmare that's costing businesses thousands of dollars every single month. Manual entries lead to overpayments or underpayments and endless disputes that frustrate your team, can eat into your profits. Here are just a few reasons these hidden costs of manual time tracking are bleeding your company. Okay. First, there's errors in handwriting or spreadsheet entries that lead to over or underpayments to employee pay. Now, I've firsthand seen a lot of timesheets, and there's been a lot of them where I cannot decipher their hieroglyphics to know exactly what they're trying to say. So I'm quite sure that there's a lot of you out there that are looking at timesheets or doing people's time for your company that can relate to that. Now, the next thing is there's payroll disputes, and that erodes the team trust, and it really wastes a lot of time for the administration in in any particular company, right? And the last one is inaccurate data that really skews the job costing and profitability. Now, there's one thing I didn't put on there, and that's the delay in invoicing, because all of these things delay when you can invoice the client, and that delay in invoicing causes cash flow issues. Okay, so that's another hidden cost to doing this whole time manual time tracking. Okay. So here's a real life story from the field. So I was asking a prospect from a company how much time this individual was actually an administrator, how much time they spent on either time cards, tracking down the information on the projects, or doing the job costing. And she indicated that it took her a total of 40 hours a week doing the costing, which, that's I don't know what her pay was, but let's just say she was making $20 an hour as a base wage. That's $800 a month in, or sorry, $800 a week. Sorry, did I say she was doing 40 hours a month? No, she's doing 40 hours a week. So this is basically her whole week is uh, tracking down these time cards, doing the job costing, doing the time. This is her full-time job. So let's assume she's getting $20 an hour, which, as we know, when you calculate in labor burden rate, say add another 30% on that. So she's really at $26 an hour costing the company. So that's, well over $3,200 a month in admin time alone, plus not to mention any of the errors from the payroll itself that cost the company money. So basically, like I said, her entire job is to do time cards manually. Now, we're not allocating that this is going to replace jobs, but it will uh, enable these individuals to do different things for their company, reduce the amount of errors, and eliminate a lot of the headaches that come along with doing the manual time cards. Okay. So, like I said, this is basically her whole job, her whole 40-hour week is tracking this information down. Okay. And not to mention how many errors is there going to be on the payroll. So yeah, she spends 40 hours, but how much when she does the keying, how many errors are actually going to be on the payroll? Maybe the people get paid too little or too much. Maybe she missed applying times to specific invoices. So she's undercharging clients or even just as bad, overcharging clients because that erodes trust with the client as well. And then maybe there's a delay in closing out projects or invoicing, as I talked about. So that really affects the cash flow. So there's a lot of situations where this is costing companies money. And it's like hidden money. They don't really realize it. So does this sound familiar to any of you at all? And do you think that's actually happening in your business? Are any of you out there losing money to payroll errors, you think? Or are you tired of chasing down the timesheets? Well, today, what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how Project Watch Pro eliminates these errors using automated time tracking system, uses GPS verification for time tracking. So let's dive in, and I'm going to go through a few examples, and we're going to get right into the software, and I'm going to showcase the software, how it actually answers and solves a lot of these issues for you. So why do manual timesheets fail? So it's pretty simple. Human error, misreading people's handwriting, trying to decipher those hieroglyphics is a challenge for a lot of people because not everybody has great penmanship. Maybe you've forgotten some entries or you mistype hours, and these things pile up pretty fast. So without real-time checks, a lot of these mistakes will go unnoticed until the payroll day. And then you're scrambling on payroll day to get the information in, which causes you to make even more mistakes or more errors. Okay. Because over 20 years ago, I used to work for a payroll processing company, and I had a lot of clients, and my clients were companies that we processed their payroll. And I know exactly what it's like when companies are doing their payroll and they're doing it last minute and there's a lot of errors. We would get every single week or day that we'd be processing payroll, we'd be getting phone calls saying, "Oh, I made a mistake. I made a mistake. I made a mistake," on people's time, and they're scrambling trying to fix people's payroll. It was sometimes it can be a nightmare for some of these companies. Okay. So the impact, well, the industry data shows that 10 to 20% of payrolls are actually off. It's costing companies thousands of dollars. And admins will spend at least 20 or sorry, 10 hours or even more weekly trying to fix these errors. And the bad data just skews your job costing, and it hides a lot of the profits, or it causes you to bleed a lot of these profits away. So here's an example of, what typically could happen is an administrator is looking at the timesheets, and it says 10 hours or 10 hours on the timesheet, and she goes and enters 8 hours in the spreadsheet or 8 hours in the payroll processing thing. So that's just one employee for one day, but you multiply that across your entire team or your entire company, and it can become chaos. Okay. But what if you could stop those errors instantly? What I'm going to do is going to walk you through how Project Watch Pro handles all of this. And Project Watch Pro is an all-in-one solution for constructions, trades, fabrication companies that do a lot of job costing. And it can help reduce timesheet errors, basically three different ways. First is GPS verified mobile tracking. So this makes sure that the employees are actually on site when they're clocking in of job tasks. Now, we don't track employees' movements, with GPS or any of that. All it does is when they select the job and the task that they're doing, that the system verifies that they're at the location of the job and the task. Even if it's at your main shop and you only do work at a main shop, because they have the app on their phone, we wanted to avoid the temptation of them clocking into work as they're driving to work. So actually, they would have to be on site because it verifies their GPS location when they clock in and clock out. Okay. So this is done by, in technical terms, it puts a geofence around the location of wherever the project or the job is. Now, the next thing is that it simplifies the process for employees. All they need to do is either on their phone or in the tablet kiosk is just select the job that they're working on and the task that they're doing for that job and hit start. Okay, that's all they have to do until they're either finished the job or the task, or they're going for break, or they're clocking out for the day. That's all they have to do, and then they just make the necessary change when it's time to make the necessary change. And we'll go through some examples of that in just a few minutes. And lastly, this what we're working on right now, which will be implemented by the end of September, is we're connecting the employee's schedule right to their clock in. So it's a quick clock in. They don't even have to know the job or the task necessarily. All they have to do is just look on the calendar in the app and just select based on the time of day it is. They just select what's in the calendar, and it'll clock them into the job and the task that they are set up to do for that particular day based on whatever the supervisor put in for into their schedule. Okay. So that'll be coming and available at the end of September in all of our apps. Okay. So these are some of the ways that Project Watch Pro reduces these timesheet errors. And it takes you from chaos to control in just a matter of minutes. So the three basic steps are you go from the employee clocking in via the mobile app or the kiosk, selecting the job or the task. Then that information is instantly sent and available for you to see on the dashboard inside the software on your tablet or sorry, on your laptop or your desktop. Okay. And then that payroll data is now available for you to review. Typically, what a lot of my current clients do is at the morning of the next day, they're reviewing the previous day's time entries for the individuals, comparing it against the schedule to make sure that they were working on the jobs that they were said they were working on. There's still human element involved in even hitting a couple buttons on your phone. Okay. So I've made it as super simple as possible, but there's still the human element of hitting the button. And for whatever reason, and some employees, they don't hit the right button or they don't hit the right job. So time will need to be edited, but it's much easier to edit it in the software than it is when you're doing timesheets and trying to figure out what they're actually doing. Okay, so we're going to go through this information. Okay, to inside the admin panel, the homepage of Project Watch Pro. And so what we need to do right now is we actually need to clock some employees in. So I have the two different methods of clocking employees in. I have the phone method, which is linked to the individual owner of the phone. Basically, I log in using my email and my passcode so that whatever I do inside the app, it knows it's actually me. And then we have the kiosk version where you just enter your passcode and anybody can use the kiosk and it knows based on your passcode because uh, there's no duplicate passcodes. It knows who the individual is and tracks their time. Okay, so first thing we're going to do is I'm going to stop sharing this screen. And I believe what you're seeing right now is the kiosk. Right? So it's already linked to the location of the shop. And what we need to do right now is, as an employee, we just need to enter the 7-digit PIN code. Okay, so let me enter some. I'm going to enter three different PIN codes. This will be three different employees, and we're going to put them all on a particular job. So just let me go back in here and let's select the job that we're going to. I want to find a job that has no time on it whatsoever. And that would be this one, skidded package 366.2. The company is Alex Thornton. Okay, so that's the job that we're going to clock in. Okay, so 1, 2, 3. And this is James King. Confirm. So then we find the job. And it was a skidded package number 2 right there. And we are all going to, as you see all of these different tasks, I have a variety of different types of industries that I use this example for. So that's why you see I have so many different tasks. But for your company, you may only have a few different tasks. It's really what you want to track uh, for quoting purposes, for charge out purposes. You may have just one task rate or one charge out rate based on a shop rate. That's fine. We still break down the tasks based on the order of, or process that the job gets done, or the different things that you want to track, because you want to create that historical data to make it easier for doing uh, scheduling in the future or quoting in the future. So you'll have a record of how many hours it took you, if you're thinking about building a home, how many hours did it take you to set up and pour the basement, the foundation? How many hours did it take you to put the floor over the basement? How many hours did it take you to frame the house? How many hours did it take you to do the plumbing, the electrical? All of those could be individual tasks. So this is set up. I typically go through through work with a company to help them structure their tasks, so they we have a very clear picture of what they want to track for their employees. So we're just going to go prep for paint, and we're just going to hit start. Okay. And you see it takes me back to the, so I'm going to clock in a different employee. So I just put in the 7 digits and hit the check mark. And this one's John David. And we're going to go to the job of the skidded package, point 2. And we're doing, I can't remember what I selected, but I'm going to select prep for prime. I might have selected something else, but, and we'll do one more. Joshua Walker. So we're going to find the job. So this is the process that the actual individuals would go through. So you can see it's not very complicated. They just put in their passcode on the tablet and they just select the job that they're doing and the task that they're doing and hitting start. Okay. So that is the tablet version. Now I'm going to go to my phone version. All right. So here's my phone. So I've already logged in with my email address and my passcode. So on the phone, we just select the icon. We find the actual job. You notice that we have the logo here to the left, and some of these have pictures. So what we've done is that you have the ability to put in a number of different pictures for the jobs, and you can do that right from the phone itself. So I'll show you that actually as we're doing it. So let's find the skidded package. And you can see if I just move this, it says we can select an image. Well, there's no image for me to go through. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to take a photo. It's going to take a photo of my computer. I'm going to use that. And there you go. So we could have multiple photos in there. So this is the photo for the skidded package. Now let me go find the task, prep for prime, and start. And there you can see that the timer is going. So we're just going to go just click on the home page, and now we are all set and we are logged in both from the various people use the tablet and I use my personal phone. So you can see just how quick and easy it is to clock in. Now, as mentioned, by the end of September, there's going to be more buttons on here. One of them will be your schedule. So when the supervisor actually does the schedule for all the employees for all the tasks for those days, it will send each person their own personalized schedule. So I would select a button here that would say schedule, and it would bring up my schedule for the entire day, what I'm supposed to be working on. And then I don't have to go through the process of clicking the logo to go and then finding the job and then finding the task. In the schedule, it will have the start time, the estimated end time, the job and the task. So all I have to do is select that and it will load all the information in for me and start the clock. Much easier. So we're trying to make it as easy as possible, and that is looking up the information based on what the supervisor um, has scheduled for the company. So if I stop sharing on my phone, now let's go back into here. So typically you're at the home page, and what we're going to do is we're going to go to the active project dashboard. This is where all of the activity is taking place. So we select that, and this information is just we have 127 active jobs. Typically, most companies wouldn't have that many. You want to keep it, uh, you know, as low as possible. And then what's the estimate of those active jobs? How many non-billable hours for the entire company for this? We're selecting a 30-day time frame. And how many non-billable of the production hours. So basically, the system enables it to break down between office workers or non-productive. I don't want to say non-productive, but production workers, ones that actually are charging out to the client specifically, and then more the office staff who is considered overhead. Okay, so we see in the last 30 days, there's out of the production workers, there's 452 hours of non-billable time. So that's quite a bit. Okay, so anyway, we're going to go to our, oh, look, somebody clocked into the wrong job, which is typically will happen because they selected the wrong one on the task list. And that's why when we're doing the scheduling, where the employee can just select from their schedule, it'll eliminate employees selecting the wrong job. So let's look to see who this is. There we go, Derek Howe. So it's me personally. I'm the one that did that. So I have to edit that. So Derek Howe. So we don't want to stop the time. All we don't do is just change it to this. So we edited it right in the worker on task. He was just on the wrong job. So then we just selected the edit and we just picked the right job. So now when I go back to the dashboard, there we have all four people clocked into this particular job. So you can see that there was 1 hour was the estimated amount of time, and we're already at 25 minutes based on the individuals working on it and their time that's grouped together. It's been 25 minutes, not 25 running minutes, but 25 total minutes based on all of these individuals selected. And you can see we're at 52. Oh, it just jumped. It was at 52 something. Now it's at 54 something. So you can see it going up in real time every 60 seconds. So I'm going to continue to go through this until we actually get it um, over, and this will turn red when the time gets to over one hour, or the dollar value is over the estimate, which is 125. So whichever happens first or happens at the same time, then this will actually turn red. So what I just did, I'm doing things and not explaining it. So if I want to go in and look at the details, I can click projects and then pull up this particular project, but it's just much easier just to hover over it and then you just single click on the card itself. Anywhere in this white box, you just single click and it goes right into the project itself. You can see there was 1 hour of estimated time. We're actually at half an hour right now in time. There's no overtime hours, and it's at 59% right now profit. But that will go down as this number increases, the profit margin decreases. Okay, so but as soon as the time, you can see it just happened. It's now 55 and this is 55. So as soon as the project is done, and we clock everybody out, then that would be the whatever's left would be the profit margin. Okay, so here we see estimate 1 hour. You can see it says 1 hour. And here we're at an actual time, 0.55. Now it's up to 0.57. And we look at the dollars, we have $125 quoted. So the actual charge out is based on the task rate for the task that was selected. And then the cost is based on the employee's wage plus the employee's labor burden rate, which is different for each employee, plus the company overhead rate per hour, which changes every single day. And then if any employees are in overtime, that would get calculated, but we're all in just regular time rate at the moment. So you can see the quote is just, this is a very simple one. We only have 1 hour. We didn't have any materials, any estimated expenses. Maybe that's like you had to go buy a tarp or you had to rent a heater or whatever. And those would be those types of expenses. And then third party costs, that's where you had to get a flatbed truck in to pull something out, or you had to hire a crane or something. That would be the third party costs. And you have the ability to either charge those out at just direct costs, or you can mark them up. And then the marked up value would show in the charge out details. Now, the labor charge out here is based on the whatever the task rate is. And I think the task rate for the item that we clocked in at is probably 125 or 135. I can't remember what the task rate was for that particular task. I could go in and check it out. And you can see the cost. So for the charge out rate, based on whatever the task rate is, it's $87.50. Our cost is $70.57. Okay, so right now we're running at about a $17 profit on this job that we're doing right now. So as you can see, this is going up, this is going down. So we'll see once we get to, I'm going to take it to maybe 1 hour, when there's 1 hour and 1 minute, or just over 1 hour, so it turns red. Okay. So that is watching this. So I went in a lot of times what the supervisors are doing is they're watching this. They're seeing who's working on which job. Like I said, you want to have it so you have the fewer active jobs open at once. Obviously, it's if they're active, they're active. Great. But if a job is not scheduled to come in for 2 or 3 weeks, you wouldn't make it active. You would make it pending or waiting to arrive or something. You just want to have the jobs that people could actually work on, that are in the shop or on location, that people are actually going to go to. So the fewer, the better. Less chance of employee error when they're selecting the job that they're working on. Okay. So I want to, as soon as this completes, what we're going to do is I'm going to show you the process of editing time, as well as how you would go about looking at payroll for the next day. Look at the individuals. So you can see we're at 88% and we're up to $110 right now. Okay, we're just getting close to the 1 hour mark. We're down to 26.97% profit margin right at the moment. So this would be pretty close. We'd be hoping that we would be finishing up soon. It's always good to keep your profit margin obviously as high as possible, but if you want to, aim to keep each particular project between 25 to 30%. And like I said, the system is calculating in real time the actual costs of the labor. Okay, so the other costs, obviously we don't need real time. It's just whenever they're used, whenever we enter the materials, will it'll indicate what the cost was. But the biggest fluctuating and the biggest expense to a lot of these types of businesses that do construction services or fabrication or trades industry as the employee cost is the by far the biggest one. So having a handle on your employee costs on every single project is key to your success in having a profitable company. So we can see that we are right now, we just went over. So if we go back to the dashboard, now we are hitting red. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to clock out of everybody. Okay, so this is Derek Howe. So we're going to go in, we're going to clock him out. So we're going to assume that he's taking lunch right now, because the only time you clock out is when you're on lunch or at the end of the day. And then you can see it gives what he worked on so far. So we'll just go back home. We'll log out. Okay, there we go. And so James King, and we will clock out. Joshua Walker, we will clock out. All right, so then I'm going to come back in here and we're going to see who's clocked out and who haven't. I clocked three out. There's still one I didn't clock out. So let's just clock them out from the admin panel. You can clock out from here as well. So you can see all the different ways that employees get clocked out. Obviously, they're not in the admin panel, but trust me, there are times that employees leave without clocking out, even when they have the app on their phone. They'll leave without clocking out. Okay, so now let's go back into the project. Well, it didn't take long for us to, you can see that in the charge out, based on the hours and the task rate, we're over budget. Budget was 125. We came in at 145, but our cost is at 116. So that means that we still made a little bit of profit, 6.95%. Obviously, not the profit that we're looking for, but we made a little bit of profit. So now we can go into the details of the time. You can see that James King was keyed in at prep for paint when he should have been in at prep for prime. So what we're going to do is we're going to change James King's time here because he's in the wrong task. So let's put it in the right task. And it's just that easy. Okay, so we have these little action buttons. We can edit, delete, or we can clone the time. So let's say that they were all um, just milling about, and they were actually done at 10 after 12, and they all went to the lunchroom. And then they realized that their job was, they were finished their job, or they realized they didn't clock out for lunch. So then there's 8 minutes there where they were actually on lunch, but they were still clocked in. So let's say that, okay, well, we want to change their time now, their end time, to reflect that it shows at 12:10 instead of 12:08. And we're just going to take that 8, 7, 8, 9 minutes off each person. And that's just going to be unpaid because they were really on lunch They just, you know, were sitting there and the clock was ticking and they took, 7 to 9 minutes to clock out. So we're going to go in and we're going to change everybody to 10 because people, I'm sure employees are human and for whatever reason, they sometimes forget. All right, so we're just going to say that Derek Howe was clocked in error. He's clocked into the wrong thing. So we're just going to delete Derek Howe. So this is now that I'm the supervisor, I've analyzed it, and this is the true time for this particular job. So now if we go back to the dashboard, we can see now that because I've edited those times, we're now in a much better position. So you can see that we were at 54% based on those time edits and getting rid of Derek Howe, who was not supposed to be clocked in at the time. But I am not about to say that the software solves the problems of the employees not clocking into the right thing. It's still going to happen. I mean, it doesn't until the AI is good enough that it actually knows what your employee is doing. Um, then you're going to have situations where the employees are clocking into the wrong thing or not clocking out. But we've made it, as you can see, as simple as possible for doing any edits. And so we just go into the particular project. If you want to edit the project detail, the time detail, right there, we can see what everyone was doing. All right, so what you want to do when you come in the morning and you want to review the time for the employees for the previous day. I like the all worker any day. And I'm going to pick a time in the past because that I know we have some decent data because I don't have this is my demo account and I don't have up to date data in it right at the moment. But you can see this is for August 12th. Here's your employee's name. Here's all the jobs, the companies they work for, uh, the tasks, so safety meeting, 7 to 7:14. And what you're looking at is you want to make sure that this to this, and then this one matches this one. Okay. 8:59, 8:59, 9:14, 9:14, 11:13, 11:13, 12 o'clock, 12:30. There's a break there. That means we know that it's lunchtime, unpaid lunch, because there's a gap. 2:59, 2:59, 3:14, 3:14 to 4:14. Okay, great. So, you can look to see, make sure that the employees' times match up. You can see for this particular employee, there was 4 hour or 8 hours and 44 minutes total. 4 hours of that, 4 hours and 44 minutes was billable. So the other 4 hours is non-billable. Okay. And then the cost of the labor for that particular person for that day. Okay. So going through each of these records would be what you'd do the next morning to verify the individual's time and for the job costing because it's being costed to this particular job number or project number for that client. And this is the task that they're actually doing. So, and each task would have its own charge out rate based on whatever you set up for your company. Okay. So that is how Project Watch Pro makes it much easier for the employees, the administrative people, everybody in the company when it comes to tracking time. We've ditched the manual time cards. We're making it as simple as easy as possible for the employees to track their time. Like I said, they're just selecting the job and the task and hitting the start button and just changing either the job or the task or clocking out for lunch or clocking out at the end of the day. And by the end of September, we'll have it so that they're just going and looking at their schedule and they're clicking on what the schedule says that they should be doing. Now, that's provided the supervisor is updating the schedule on a regular basis and keeping it current. Now, if the supervisor is not doing their job and they're not creating the schedule, then it'll be left to the employee to clock in to the particular job and clock into the task, just like I walk through on my phone as well as the kiosk tablet. Okay, so that's how we made it, how we're making it simple and easy for companies to actually uh, go from chaos to control in a very short amount of time when it comes to manual time cards and tracking individuals' time. Okay. So hopefully you enjoyed the video, and we'll be back with some more videos in the near future. All right. Take care and thank you very much.